up. The other day, there's 6 ACC teams in the top 20 in the country in sacks. You guys obviously are at the top of the list. Is that just because all you coaches are geniuses, or is there something else at play here?
It's quite a loaded question, Will. Quite honestly, you know, I can't speak for the other teams. Obviously, Clemson and their athletes and what they've been able to accomplish over the last several years speaks a lot to what Coach Venables and his staff have been able to do over there. I'm just proud of the growth of our guys. They've just continued. It's really been a several-year process, and you've seen it coming with some of our guys, but the emergence of JJlling, Jalen Twyman, and also Pat Jones has been kind of spearheading that thing. And we're getting to a point now where it's just hard to double team one guy. You know, you double team Jalen, you're going to open up another D tackle, and Amir Watts has come on. If you try and slide the protection to Pat, you know, John Morgan's kind of popped up as of late. Obviously, Hava earlier in the season. So it's really kind of a credit to how hard they've worked, and this has been kind of a few years in the making. So hopefully it's something now we can start to have some guys developing while these guys are performing and start to build something that lasts over time.
I mean, if you look at big picture, if you lose 2 guys that you lost during, you know,
Sure.
there's always, on the outside, it's like, well, they're screwed.
Well,
and obviously that hasn't been the case. I mean, did you sort of know that this, you know, you didn't want that to happen, but did you not have any real concern?
No, I mean, I don't think anyone could foresee that we were going to be able to produce the way we have with the loss of Weaver and Keyshawn Camp. Those were, you know, huge hits to our potential production going into the season. It's fun to think about what could have been with all 4 of them this season, you know, playing together and, you know, continue to develop some of those younger guys. But you got to tip your hat to those young guys that have really stepped up their game and practiced really hard and invested in the film to be able to get some of the things accomplished that they have. But no way I could have predicted with the loss of Rashad and Keyshawn that we'd be able to accomplish what we have so far.
Do you have to have a little bit of swagger to voluntarily be a defensive lineman here and wear number 97?
There's no question. I mean, obviously that what Aaron Donald has accomplished and still is accomplishing is a tremendous honor. I think a lot of us here would be shocked if that number is going to be available much longer, quite honestly, right, for Pitt. So I'll give Jalen a lot of credit for taking the risk to step into that number because he knew what it meant. But Jalen's the kind of guy that he wants that pressure on himself. He's a tireless worker. I think he wanted to put that on himself so he could never relent. There's times I have to beg Jalen to back off a little bit so I know his body's going to be ready on Saturdays. It's just how he's wired, and he's embraced it with everything he has.
What have you seen out of the defensive tackles not named Jalen Twyman, especially
right.
Devin Danielson too?
Well, I'll start with Amir because, you know, Amir is obviously the NFL scouts are here just about every day and how hard he has played. You know, not that he hasn't played hard in the past, but it's another gear right now. I mean, the way he's running to the ball all over the field has attracted the attention of the next level and also his concentration. He's growing up. I mean, that's obviously we're here to win games. We're in the business of winning games, so you guys write positive articles, but most of us coaches get into it to see someone grow up and be able to step into life a better man. And I couldn't be prouder of how far Amir has come as a man, and now to see that transitioning onto the field, it's one of my more rewarding moments as a coach to see where he's come. So hopefully he stays on that track. Devin has been extremely solid. I'll tell you, a guy that's really turned a corner the last 2 weeks is Tyler Bentley, and he played a nice game down in Atlanta against Georgia Tech. It's one of those things that sometimes you guys can't necessarily see, and I understand because you don't see the stat line. But there's some fundamental things that Tyler did that made everybody in the room cheer on a simple, I think he made a tackle for a 2-yard gain, but there was a lot more substance to what he did to make that play happen. So Tyler Bentley is a guy that's really coming on. I'm excited about him as well.
North Carolina with Sam Howell, I mean, he's not an ordinary freshman, is he?
No, not at all. We have a ton of respect for him. His ability to evade sacks in the pocket reminds me of Dungy from Syracuse. I don't know if he runs in the open field quite like Dungy does yet. You know, he had another gear, I think, but he evades the pass rush as good as anyone we're going to see all year. He's got great touch on the ball. He's clearly intelligent. He's going to take what the defense gives him. No way, shape, or form does he look like he's a true freshman out there. And that's from the beginning of the year because we're going pretty far back in terms of what tapes we're looking at because we have some extra time. So he's been impressive since he took the job.
The recruitment of Hava, can you talk about when he first came on your radar?
Sure.
And how difficult was it for him, for you guys to recruit him?
Sure.
You know, with his family being over in Italy.
Well, it all happened really late. You know, it was January. We had, you know, when you get to the end of recruiting, you tend to have a couple of scholarships there that aren't committed to positions, but are committed to, you know, best athlete, and he's obviously a big athlete. So I was in New Jersey. I was with Tim Salem. We actually stopped, which doesn't happen very often. He let me go to the bathroom and get a cup of coffee, which with Salem doesn't happen. And someone I know down in Florida said, hey, there's some action happening with a kid in Tampa. So the film gets sent to me of his senior year, and I look at it on my phone, and I'm struck by it. And without saying anything, I said, Tim, do me a favor, look at this and tell me what you see. He saw the same thing that I did, a tremendous, raw athlete with size. So we made a call down. Coach Harley was in the area at the time, and within 45 minutes, Coach Harley was there. And some offers were coming in on Haba. And once we found out about character and did a little bit of a deep dive over a few days, we made the offer as well. Then, the next part of that fast courting, piece of recruiting is to get him here. We're communicating with mom by phone. We know some of the coaches there. There's a lot of international students at this school in Clearwater. So you navigate it through there. We were able, by NCAA rules, to bring someone up that was on the coaching staff, acting in sense as a parent for him while he was overseas from home. So we bring them up, and long story boring, there was an immediate fit. We got him with some of our international organizations on campus. He met a professor. I'll never forget this. We walked him into one of the buildings on campus, and a woman who runs the Italian club, I think is what it's called. I might be misquoting that, but he walked in the room and she started to speak Italian to him, and to see him light up was pretty cool, because he was still in that mode, and he still does it a little bit now, where he's thinking in Italian and translating and speaking, and to see that go away and see him light up was pretty fun, and he felt very comfortable here. I think some of the architecture and things like that reminded him of home, and I think he felt like we could develop him as well. He's an impressive young man.
Good story. What about how he's developed as a football player, at this level?
Honestly, way faster than I ever could have expected, Jerry. I mean, I knew we had a big raw athlete. If I'm being honest, it was probably just factoring everything in. American football in Italy, 1 year at a smaller, although successful, high school in Clearwater. You just figure he's not going to be able to take to all the demands of Division I football. But this is where, his God-given athletic ability combined with his intelligence, I think, has allowed him to progress faster. Some young men, when things are hard, when you're challenging someone, when they really know the full understanding of why you're doing what you're doing, they can progress fast. And that's what Haba's been able to do. And to his credit, he comes in early every day. I kind of have a crew of about 7, 8, 9 guys that come in every morning at 6 o'clock on their own, not asked, and he's always one of those. So he's working hard to progress fast and killing it in school as well, which I'm proud of that.
I think last time we talked to you was a bye week as well, and we asked you about, are these sack numbers resonating on the recruiting trail? Are people recognizing
You
it?
certainly use it when you're talking to a defensive lineman or a linebacker, because obviously KC is doing a great job too. His sack numbers are up there. So just the fact that we're aggressive and you do use those things for the right positions, and it's something to brag about while you can. But I think bottom line is, today's day and age, when you're recruiting a high-level athlete, they want to know, can you develop me towards having a chance at my dream, right, to play at a place like next door. And I think now the proof is in the pudding that we can develop guys, and you can show that is a fact here, and it's certainly having an impact, I believe.
Charlie, earlier in the season, Patrick was getting to the quarterback. He wasn't able to finish the play. What was it like watching film with him in those early weeks and pointing out how close he was, and then compare that to now what he's getting to?
Well, I think if those conversations were happening with Pat 2 years ago, it would have been difficult. He would have just been a frustrated young fella, right? But now, as Pat is really crossing the threshold into becoming a man, he just wanted to get the tools that it took to finish that pass rush, to turn the corner a little earlier, to finish the escape a little bit quicker. I mean, the reality is the difference between the pressure and a sack is usually a fraction of a second. So we're always trying to find ways to shave off fractions of a second. And to his credit, he's finding those ways, and then each week coming in and creating a new plan, but still applying those things he learned during that time. And you go back to Pat, there's a play in his growth. You go back to when we played Notre Dame last year, a tough loss, close loss for us, but we played pretty well that day. Similar to what we saw with Tyler Bentley in the Georgia Tech game, there was one play going towards our sideline where all his fundamentals came together, and I don't even know if he made the tackle, but he destroyed that side of the line of scrimmage, and all of our kids on the sideline saw something happen. So it's really stacking blocks on blocks and building yourself into a guy that can finish plays.
Charlie, how much of the pressure that you guys are getting is just the scheme, and how much of it is discipline and guys not freelancing, even if they might see an opening, they understand, hey, my assignment on this play is to occupy these two guys so somebody else can go and do their thing?
It's a great question. I mean, you talk about the discipline piece. I think it really starts with the back end. I think you guys know we're pretty aggressive with our coverage. We're on press, man coverage quite a bit with our guys. So oftentimes, now not all the time, but oftentimes it's hard for a quarterback to find a quick window. So you got to put a lot of credit to the back end and the discipline and the things that they've been able to accomplish. But what you're referring to, and without getting into the phrases, I mean, you want to have kids that have the confidence to take a risk and pass rush, or you're never going to get to the quarterback. That's the reality of it. But if you understand the risk that you may take and what that's going to do to the quarterback, then that risk can actually turn into what looks like a winning move that was a setup, and it really wasn't. It's just understanding when I do this, the odds are the quarterback's going to do that, and then feeling the pieces around you. So yes, it has a lot to do with the discipline in our lane, scheme too, certainly. Randy and Coach Harley and myself, we really worked together to put the pass rush plan, certainly for third down, together. So tip our hat to Randy with that. But a lot of it is taking that risk, knowing how to respond based on where the quarterback's going to go, and that's led to a lot of our hits on the quarterback.
It's